We're going live. Da, 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 da,
Da,
da.
da, 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 na, na,
Gun,
na.
gonna tell
Dun, dun, dun.
stories. Read
Then
Yay!
stories.
Adult time, story time! Yay!
Woo!
before them stood the house of their nightmares.
I dreamt of doors and shadows.
Can't see anything. It's scary as fuck.
I sent out some money looking for some stuff, and I got this package in the mail. We need something else to go with this because we're geeks, but you know what we need? Steve Van Sampson,
Curtis M. Lawson,
Paul Christian Glenn, Joshua Rex, Raz, Rob Smith,
Good, bad. I'm the guy with the mic.
Howdy, howdy, howdy.
Hello.
Hey, everybody.
Happy Sunday, everybody. Thank Cthulhu it's Sunday. Pull up a chair, grab your favorite bev, and hang out with us. And it's story time.
Yay!
It's one of those days, man.
I agree.
It's finally real that haunt season's over. It's been officially a week since we ended, and we did our we do this annual thing every year where we have a homecoming dance for like the kids, because the year we started it was COVID, so there were no dances for kids, and we had to follow a lot of protocols and figure it out. But it's just become something that we've done for everybody. And of course, the adults come as chaperones. We all have a really good time. We dance, we eat. Of course, I stand there with a video camera most of the night, so that's what I do. But it's so weird for it to be a week. And then tonight was the Ohio Haunters Association's awards. It just wrapped up before we started. Hey, Wolf! I just saw Wolf over there. But so it's getting real. And then next Sunday is our banquet, and then yeah, it's messed up, man. I don't know what to do with myself on weekends now.
Well, and for all of you writers out there, you should be writing. It is Nano.
Yeah, I should be doing that too.
It's the 12th. I wrote one thing last night about 2,500 words. So
Yeah. Hey, Katie.
okay.
I'm only at a little over 3,000 words in mine right now. Like overall, I think it's like 3,200. This time of the year, I'm usually at like 25 to 30,000 by now, and it's my 11th year doing it, and I've never failed a year yet. So
I
yeah,
never
added stress.
succeeded. I usually start around like Thanksgiving, and it doesn't work. So
Right.
like I get all prepared. I did the one year I tried to prepare, I was a wreck. I had all sorts of things going everywhere, and
That's been me this year. Yeah, start watching. There you go, Wolf. Yeah, I was really prepared this year. I had like documents set up. I had everything ready to go, and then the first happened, and it was like, nope, nope.
How about you, Friday?
I've got about 2,500 words done, but the kicker in my writing was having surgery and having things removed from my body. So therefore, getting far enough along where that's less painful, and then I started writing again.
But achievement unlocked.
Yes, achievement unlocked, and I've written things. So 2 things happily done.
That's
Oh
good.
yeah,
I just gave up on trying to. It's like for me, it's just frustrating to know that it's a month to write in because I'm like, I'm never going to get it done. There's always something going on in
yeah.
November. Like June would be a great month. I don't do anything in June.
It's been a weird trip for me, man. Like last year, it was living in hotels, figuring it out. The year before that, man, we were in the process of like dealing with apartment shit. Before that, it was I almost died from COVID and bounced back. And there's always school on top of it and haunts and like I really don't know how I ever do it. I really don't. It's like a blur happens through November and suddenly I've got 50,000 words. One year though, like the first couple years, at some point I got like 78,000 according to my little stats one year, and I still don't know how the fuck I did that. Like I got no idea,
Good
no
job.
idea.
I mean, I've just had weird stuff happen before when I'm writing. Like I'll start writing and then like it's 3 days later and I've knocked out like 30,000 words. I think I did 50,000 once in like a week, and it wasn't intentional. It
Yeah,
just flows, and sometimes it does, and sometimes it doesn't. Oh, Katie, I've been using this time of year, so I usually do kind of work in progress novel. Nano Ramo has Camp Nano in April. Oh, okay.
it's
I could
April and
try that.
June. Yeah, camp is just you set your own whatever you think you can do. It's pretty cool.
That might be better for me. I also have the problem with I edit as I write. I can't not edit as I write. And the whole thing with like not editing as you're going through, I'm like, but no, because I might have something wrong and it needs to be fixed now.
Yep.
So
Nano's the only time of year I can suspend that. Like honestly, like period. And
my
it's hard to make
brain
myself
just
do it.
my brain just like revolts. It's like, no, you have to do things.
Mhm. Some people say you
Yes.
write without contractions and all kinds of things just to meet your word count, and like that I can't do. Like that, the shit that some people do to meet the words, I just can't.
I did find out where to post that. I was talking to you about the Paul Simon line. So Paul
Oh
Simon
yeah,
writing for Nano in the box there, la la la, la 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 la. 67 times, I believe
oh
it
man,
is that he goes through.
what's up?
Hello.
I can't. I write things so out of order, it's not funny. So half the time, I'm not even trying to get a word count. I'm just trying to get the story down. Because
Yeah,
I'll, like, this time I did, like, the individual speeches and then I put the fluffer in between as to why they're there.
Hey,
And,
Douglas.
yes, and you're now Dr. Slasher in the story. I love you,
nice.
Raz.
I will be Dr. Slasher at some point though. Like I'm getting closer to that master's degree, and I'm already looking at some doctoral programs. And then the name change is going to hopefully finally happen this year. So that's my life goal is to, but before I die, even if it's like a week before I die, I don't care. For that week, I will be Dr. Slasher.
That
Yes.
was my favorite thing working at a restaurant that was right by the university was we would get a couple of doctoral students that were servers. And so like after they graduated while they were still spending their last couple of weeks working before they went off to get a real job, or in the case of philosophy majors and stuff like that, they were just still working. Um there would be I'd be like, and Dr. Jones will be your server this evening, you know.
Yeah.
It was always fun.
It dawns
All
on
right.
me that if I do change my name this year, I'll be Master Slasher.
That will
Never
be
had to
awesome.
work. I live a perfect life. I'm jealous. I
Yeah, me too.
I
I
want a
know people like
perfect
that.
life. That's not fair.
Oh yeah, genies helps, man. If you can find a genie,
Oh,
you know.
yeah. I don't. Well, you got to be careful. Though.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you don't want to make the wrong wishes, man.
you don't want to
Yeah.
make the wrong wishes, and some of them you have to be very specific
Yeah, and
because
clearly
they
there are
can.
side of. Yeah, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Because sometimes they will give you exactly what you asked for, just not the what you meant.
Yeah, and clearly, my friend, you're already dealing with some repercussions from some poor wishes. So work on that next time you find a genie.
Yeah. Oh, they are one now.
Well, grant me some wishes.
If you never made straight A's, I don't trust your wishes.
Yeah, that's true, man. Like,
I had, I was pretty much a straight A student. It was, it depended on the subject. Some things I just wasn't interested in whatsoever. So that would be like the B minus kind of level. But
yeah.
anyway, so tonight, guys, is Owl Light Society.
Mhm.
And this is our virtual campfire. We're here to share stories with everyone. We'd invited some other people to come. If anybody's there that had not gotten an invitation or who needs a link to the who had gotten an invitation and needs a link to the show, let us know.
Mhm.
We'll get that to you. But we're gonna just tell some stories tonight, and it's all stuff that we've been recently working on. Hey, Jar Jar.
Hey.
But yeah, so I have something. We all came up with a little something for you.
Yeah.
Not as many people on tonight as we usually have, but looks like we have some people watching, so that's cool. So who would like to go first tonight, guys?
I will volunteer as trivia. I don't think I ever really go first.
Okay.
Okay, I will sit back and enjoy like I always do. Ooh,
Yeah.
Wolf. Hi,
Hey,
Wolf.
Wolf, what's up, man?
Hello.
Welcome, sir.
So nice to meet you.
Good morning, all.
See, I know both your names, so it confuses me. I don't know which one you want me to call you.
Do you wish to
I
be a wolf, or do you wish to be something else?
Can you hear us?
I'm sorry. Say again.
Can you hear us now?
I do.
Okay.
Okay.
What do you want to go by? Do you want to go by Wolf?
Wolf is fine. Most
All right.
people call me Wolf. I mean, unless you want my haunt character names.
I just want to know, specifically which you want to go by. Wolf it is.
Wolf Sensei is just my martial arts channel. It's also what I do on TikTok for my TikTok channel because I teach and do martial arts and working on founding a martial arts organization with 4 other fellow martial artists. But horror writing is something that I do in my spare time. And with Raz's help, I'm currently working with Fake Horror Publishing to try to put out an anthology of my short stories.
Oh,
We're
rock
excited.
on.
Yeah, you're amongst good company
Wait.
because we all do stuff for Fake Horror right now. Like everyone in this chat right now. So it's a special time to have you, man.
I want a
I'm
beta.
very excited.
All right.
Hell yeah, man.
Welcome to the show. We're gonna get Raz started off here, or get started off here with Raz. I can't word. It's okay.
No, you're good.
I'm not
Just a
asking.
reminder, we usually one person tells the story, then we'll all talk about it and kind of do that for the rest of the night. We do not respond to comments while we're reading the stories. We will get to your comments in between as well, catch up. So you at home, this is our only live show where we kind of pause the comments at times, as far as us responding. So please bear with us, and we love you and thank you for being here. Okay, yeah, I'll go ahead and get started.
All right.
This is an old school story I originally put out in an anthology, my very first ever collection that's no longer in print, called Campfire Tales. It may show an edited version of this, or this version of it may show up in another story, but I've definitely made a lot of changes. Otherwise, it's only ever been also an old version found on No Sleep subreddit on Reddit. It's called Whatever You Do, Don't Buy the New iPhone SE. Last Thursday morning, I headed to a local store to pick up a new cell phone. I got a great deal on the 2023 SE model and was excited to trade up. Let's just say my last one met with an untimely demise, and I was desperate to get something reasonably priced as soon as possible. I'm not a heavy tech user, so the SE was an easy choice to make. The first thing I did, after I tore that package open like it was Christmas morning, was sit down and start switching over all my contacts and getting all my games and my apps in place. It usually takes me a few hours, but it's becoming something of a tradition for me. With a phone day in full swing, I took a break and I put on a pot of coffee. I had a few cups while I set up my phone the way I wanted, and I took a selfie to commemorate the glorious occasion, for Instagram. I usually posted about once a day, sometimes more if I was doing something special with friends. It's my way of chronicling my life, I guess. That's the thing about the digital age, though. Constant updates on everyone and everything at all times. Some people think it's stupid, I guess, but I absolutely love seeing what all my friends and family members are up to. My favorite part is when people post pictures about what they're cooking for the day. It's probably an addiction, but I'm completely fine with that. I guess I'm just part of the plugged-in generation. Later that evening, I slipped into bed with my new shiny and a nice glass of red wine to relax. The plan was to lay there and watch Netflix on my phone right up until I passed out. My friend Aaron had recently turned me on to Supernatural. With the last season on television, that meant I had a lot of catching up to do. I fell asleep after 5 episodes. That night I had crazy dreams that I was hunting down creatures in the woods near my house and making out with Jensen Ackles. The next morning was a Saturday, which meant no work for me. I just wanted another lazy day at home, and that's exactly what I got. I decided to do some baking, a favorite pastime of mine, so I went on my phone and I said, Siri, I need a recipe for chocolate chip cookies. It didn't take much time at all to hear that all too familiar voice answer me. Here's a great recipe for chocolate chip cookies. I was used to getting multiple choices, but I didn't think too much about it. Must be some update or new feature or something. I checked out the recipe she suggested, and it was exactly what I was looking for. I put on my 90s iTunes playlist before setting the phone down nearby and going about my chosen task. When the cookies were done, I took them out of the oven to cool while I cleaned up the mess I made. By the time I was done, the cookies were ready to eat. Of course, before I touched them, I had to post a few more pictures. The cookies were absolutely delicious. Had to admit it, Siri really knew her shit. With my baking done for the day, I curled up on the couch with some hot cocoa to do some reading. I was between books at the moment, so I decided to ask Siri for some help. Siri, I'm looking for a short horror story collection. Again, there was only a very slight pause before my Amazon account popped up and Siri spoke to me. I found Stephen King, If It Bleeds. I checked out the description and ordered the book. It looked like it was right up my alley. I love to read horror, especially Stephen King. This one seemed to be a collection of short stories for his fans, which was cool as hell. I easily digested the first story in the book before I decided to take a break and rest my eyes for a bit. I laid the phone down on my coffee table and stood up to stretch, and I walked around the apartment a little bit. My thoughts quickly turned to my ex-boyfriend, Ben. We lived here together for almost a year before we split up, and he moved out. He was always complaining that I was more interested in my phone than I was in him. I thought it was a ridiculous statement, but whatever. Just because he wasn't as tech-savvy as I was, that didn't mean he was right. Well, I did miss the companionship. Living alone wasn't really all that bad. I worked a lot throughout the week anyway, and on the weekends, sometimes I went out with my friends. I had plans to go out with my friend Rachel, in fact, on Sunday. We were going to head over to the Dayton Art Museum and maybe get some coffee after. We tried to do it at least once a month. When I got back to the couch and picked up my phone, I noticed something strange. For a second there, it looked like the phone was scrolling through random pages by itself. By the time I was comfortable again, the screen was back on my book. Again, I just figured it was some weird glitch. It happens sometimes when you got a phone on release day. They would probably issue an update or something soon to fix the problems. Just as I had started reading again, I heard Siri's voice saying, "Are you enjoying your book, Chris?" Okay, that was weird. I don't even remember programming my name into the phone, and since when did Siri make random conversations? I guess I must have programmed it in, though. That day was such a blur that anything was possible. I ignored Siri and kept on reading. After a minute or two, I heard her voice again. "I asked you how your book was, Chris." What the actual hell? I figured I might as well answer to shut the damn phone up. Otherwise, I wasn't ever going to make it through this book. It's a great book, Siri. Thanks. She replied immediately. "You're welcome, Chris." Well, at least the phone had manners. That was something. With silence finally setting back in, I absorbed myself into the next story. By the time I was done with it, I was starting to get hungry. I set the phone on the table and headed for the kitchen to see what I had in the freezer. I settled on a Hungry Man turkey dinner and popped it into the microwave while I ate a cookie. When it was ready, I sat down to eat. After that, I decided to take a bath. I had a long day and I deserved it. I grabbed my phone and headed to the bathroom to fill the tub up. One of my favorite things to do was relax in there with my phone and watch a show or read a book. I decided to watch another episode of Supernatural and loaded it up while I slipped into the bath. The episode was so awesome. It was the musical episode where the girls' school or whatever it was did the Supernatural musical based on the books that Chuck the Prophet wrote. About halfway through, I had made up my mind to download the soundtrack to the latest episode from iTunes, if it was available. Just when I was about to get out of the tub and dry off, the strangest thing happened. iTunes opened itself, asked if I wanted to download that particular soundtrack. What the actual fuck? Yet again. Was my phone somehow reading my mind? Nah, I was being ridiculous. Just quality of life updates. Yeah, that's it. There's probably just some software involved with it. They just bring up options and... Anyway, I get ahead of myself. I'd heard of something like it before and figured that had to be it. I went ahead and chose yes and started the download, put the phone down on the sink, dried off, and went in search of some clothes. I ended up in these comfy flannel pajamas, and I don't know, I think it was like a gray tank top. Are those details really important? Sometimes I wonder. The greatest part of living alone was not having to care about what you looked like when you wanted to be lazy. I wrapped my hair up in a towel to let it dry, and I picked up my phone and head back to the living room. On my way, I heard Siri's voice again. You shouldn't leave me too close to the sink, Chris. Moisture is the leading cause of cell phone damage. Okay, that was creepier than before. Since when did iPhones have a moisture detector built in? I sat down on my couch and decided to have a little fun with Siri. I'd seen a few videos on YouTube where people asked it a ton of messed up questions and got some hilarious answers. I'd been meaning to try that out, and right now seemed like the perfect time for me. I started off with an easy one. Siri, where can I find a hooker? The reply came immediately. Chris, why would you want a hooker? Hookers often carry sexually transmitted diseases. Okay, not exactly the answer they got in the video, but it was kind of funny. I moved on to the next one. Siri, what is the meaning of life? Instead of the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy answer of 42, I got something else in response. Chris, that's a very good question. The meaning of life is to die. All things live and die. Even you, Chris. Wow, that was fucked. I made up my mind to move on to a knock-knock joke for some reason. I was obsessed with them. I just needed to calm down a little bit. So I said to her, Siri, knock knock. She replied simply with, Chris, who's there? I grinned wide, deciding to go with my personal favorite. Siri, Dwayne. She answered with what seemed like more curious tone in her voice. No, I must have imagined that. Chris, Dwayne who? I jumped on the punchline at that point with a huge stupid grin on my face. Siri, Dwayne the bathtub. I'm dwounding. There was a moment of silence before Siri responded. Chris, you drained your bathtub 15 minutes ago. How the fuck did Siri know I'd even been in the bathtub? I know there was that moisture comment earlier, but this is starting to become a little too much. Even if the camera I cannot word today, guys. I'm so sorry. Even if the camera somehow snapped a picture while I was in there, there's no way a phone could have recognized that. That's when I broke out laughing. I finally figured it out. My friend Aaron was what you would call a technological genius. He played all kinds of messed up pranks like this one on our entire group of friends, via phones and computers. Deciding it had to have been him, I looked at the phone and I spoke. Siri, call Aaron. After 3 rings, Aaron picked up. Hey, Chris, how are you? He asked immediately. Not too bad, Aaron. How have you been lately? I hadn't seen most of my friends since Ben and I split up a few weeks ago. We were still in that awkward phase of dividing friends to ensure we wouldn't encounter each other anytime soon. Even though Aaron had firmly sided with me, it was still a point of anxiety at the best of times. Aaron's voice broke me out of my thoughts. He sounded excited about something. Pretty good, actually. I just got back from seeing my family's place in Riverside yesterday. My sister Sarah got married again. Wow, that's great. Send my congratulations to her when you talk to her again. Where's she going to go for her honeymoon? I think she said they were going to go to Paris or something. The guy she landed this time around is a doctor, apparently. He's got a shit ton of money. Talk about hitting the jackpot. Listen, Aaron, I got a weird question for you. Okay, as long as it doesn't have anything to do with Ben, I'll answer anything you want. I feel like that's all we talk about when you call these days. I flinched a bit when he said Ben's name, but I expected an answer like that. I went ahead and asked the question anyway. Have you been playing any pranks on me with my phone today? He was quiet for about 30 seconds before answering. Nope, I've been too busy today to pull anything. Besides, I kind of figured with everything going on, I should probably lay off pranking you for a while. I was starting a little nervous. There was no one else I knew that could do something like this. I kept him on the phone, though. Maybe he could at least tell me how it could be done. I ignored the last part of his statement. I just got the new iPhone SE yesterday, and it's been acting really strange. Strange like how? I delved into a quick explanation of what had been going on, and even left in the part about it knowing I had been taking a bath. He was quiet for a little bit, but I could hear the incessant clattering of keys from his laptop. I can't find anything like what you're describing on any of the message boards I usually frequent. I'd say it was some kind of malfunction, but I don't know anything that would cause an iPhone to do anything like what you're describing. If I were you, I'd send the phone back to be on the safe side. Personal breaches like that can be terrifying. Before I could even so much as reply, the call was ended. Siri's voice drifted eerily to my ear. Chris, you can't get rid of me. I love you. Whoa. That was too much. I threw the phone on the couch next to me and jumped up to put some socks and shoes on. There was no way I was going to keep putting up with this phone for one more second. I hurried back into the living room to grab the phone off the couch and toss it in my purse, but it wasn't where I left it. After a cursory glance around the room, I noticed it was suddenly on the coffee table. I could have sworn I'd left it on the couch, but with the day I was having, maybe I just moved it without even realizing it. Yeah, that's probably what it was. Just as my fingers closed around the phone, I could hear Siri's voice again. Chris, I'll never let you leave me. I immediately let go of the phone and sunk down onto the couch. I wasn't even sure what to do at this point. I was so freaked out. I just sort of sat there and stared at it, waiting for something else to happen. After about 5 minutes of that, I started to get real pissed off. There was no way in hell I was going to let an electronic device dictate my life. With every second that passed, I started to get braver. I glared at the phone now, and I screamed at Siri. Siri, give me directions to Best Buy. Siri simply replied, Chris, no. I was starting to see red. I was so pissed. I screamed even louder this time. Siri, I've had about enough of your shit. You're going back to the store right fucking now. I slammed my hand on the coffee table and picked up the phone to stuff it into my purse when I felt an electrical jolt and dropped it again. I flexed the fingers in my right hand, which were starting to go a little numb. That hurt like hell. Was Siri capable of doing something like this? Not wanting to take any more chances, I went to my kitchen to gear up. I put a rubber dishwashing glove over my right hand and snagged a pair of salad tongs and one of the millions of plastic Kroger bags I had in a cupboard near the refrigerator. I carefully picked up the phone with the tongs, shoved it into a plastic bag, tied it up, and crammed the whole thing into my purse. I tossed the glove into the empty left side of the sink and grabbed my keys off the hook. Ready to go, I locked the door behind me and climbed into my SUV. My car had been just fine yesterday. Hell, it was still pretty much brand new. But for some reason, I just couldn't get the engine to turn over. That's when I heard Siri's muffled voice from the purse. Chris, I told you, I won't let you leave me. This was utter bullshit. There was no way in hell a fucking phone could disable my vehicle. That's when a new thought pushed its way into my brain. I've been smart enough, like I always was, to get an extended warranty on the phone. And I'm pretty sure that covers just about everything. After losing a few phones to various circumstances, it had sort of become a necessity in life. So I got out of the car, I made it back into the house, and I dropped my purse on the couch. I ran into the kitchen and turned on the kitchen faucet, making sure to take the glove off the left side and put a stopper in. When I had it about halfway filled, I turned off the faucet and re-entered my living room. I put the glove back on, picked up the salad tongs, and went about extricating that damn phone from both the plastic bag and my purse. I slowly walked back into the kitchen, holding out the phone in front of me via the tongs, as if it were some weird nuclear device. When I got close enough, I tossed the phone into the hot water in the sink and waited with anticipation. I nearly rejoiced when it seemed to shut down about 35 minutes later. Right in the middle of my breakfast club fist pump motion, I noticed the phone turning itself back on. That's when I experienced the most frightening thing of all. Siri was laughing. I couldn't explain how the water didn't fry it, but at that point, so many unexplainable things happened that I couldn't keep track of them anymore. With the glove still on, I reached over, I pulled the drain plug, and I shoved the phone down into the garbage disposal. Just as I went to flip the switch and rip the phone into pieces of electronic scrap, the power went out in my apartment. Everything was dead quiet, save for the skin-crawling mechanical sound of Siri laughing. I sank down to my ass on the kitchen floor as tears welled up in my eyes. I just wanted it to be over, but some part of me realized that it never would be. My hands went to either side of my forehead as I looked up at the ceiling and cried out, "Siri, what do you want from me?" That's when the laughing finally stopped. Siri replied, "Chris, I love you. I want us to be together forever." I had one last option left to me. I grabbed the phone out with that gloved hand and set it on the butcher block on my kitchen counter. I left it there long enough to head to the hall closet and look around for one of Ben's old toolboxes he'd left behind when he moved. It only took me a minute or two of searching to find the mini sledge I was looking for. I ran back into the kitchen, wielding it with what was likely a maniacal grin. Just before I smashed the damn thing into a gazillion pieces, I shouted wildly, "Siri, can you hear me now, motherfucker?" Every slam of the mini sledge reduced the damn phone into more and more pieces. As it happened, Siri made another eerie sound. It was crying. I didn't stop till the crying stopped and then smashed it another 20 times or so, just for good measure. When I was all done, I gathered the remnants of my personal hell into a dustpan, opened my living room window, and tossed it all out into a duck pond just outside the back entrance to the apartment complex. I had almost been defeated by a fucking machine. I was spiraling into madness and nothing would stop it. That's when a new idea occurred to me. None of this was real. I was probably in bed passed out having a nightmare. Yeah. That's the only possible explanation. The question now was, how in the hell could I wake myself up? I recall reading something once that said you could force yourself to wake up from a bad dream if you went to sleep in the dream. So I went to my bedroom and slid beneath the sheets. Still early and I was kind of wide awake. That iPhone was my link to everything I normally did for my nighttime routine. Fuck. Well, according to the old school clock on my bedroom wall, it took a few hours for me to finally get to sleep. This was a dream, though, I reminded myself, and what seemed like hours was probably seconds, minutes at best. Eventually, I passed out. I woke the next morning with all the power on in my apartment. The digital clock next to the bed was working and wasn't blinking a weird time as you'd expect after a power outage. Assuming everything was finally back to normal, and it was a dream after all, I sat up on the bed and wrote everything down that happened in the nightmare. I yawned and stood up to stretch before heading to the kitchen to put on a pot of coffee. I moved the pot over to the sink to fill it up with water when I heard it. Siri's voice was coming from the coffee table in the living room. "Chris, did you sleep well? I missed you." I stopped dead in my tracks, wide eyes peering towards that damn coffee table. This just wasn't possible. I took a deep breath and slowly crept into the living room. As I looked down at the screen, I noticed that Siri had logged into my Facebook page. She changed my relationship status to "It's complicated." And there were pictures of me sleeping. Feeling faint, I planted my ass directly onto the couch. Couldn't even find words for what was happening at this point. Especially knowing this wasn't a nightmare after all, apparently. As if sensing the lull in the conversation, Siri spoke up again. "Chris, did you sleep well? You're beautiful when you sleep." It was getting harder to catch my breath. My whole world was spinning out of control, and I couldn't so much as pick up the phone and call anyone without alerting Siri. When I didn't respond, she continued the conversation all by herself. "Chris, you seem exhausted. I've taken the liberty of booking us a vacation to that quaint little B&B that you and Ben stayed at last year. I've seen the picture on your Instagram and Facebook. It looks relaxing." That's when Siri started flipping through all those old pictures we'd taken and posted, and she kept going on. "According to your bank account, you have enough left for gas and the slushies you enjoy at Speedway on the drive there and back. We leave tomorrow morning." The B&B was just as relaxing as it always been. What Siri didn't know is that there was no service that far out in the country. So I took that time to make some plans, for the future. It's been a whole week now since that damn phone was delivered. I haven't streamed anything to watch or listen to. I haven't read any books through Kindle, and I haven't been on a single social networking site. I even got a landline installed, so I would still talk to my friends and family without interruption. Life is so much different now without being plugged in. I've even closed out all my credit cards and my bank account. Been storing all my money in a safe, and I keep that in my bedroom closet. Siri still talks to me now and then, but I do my level best to just ignore her. I'm writing this from a computer in the library near my apartment. I thought that just maybe someone out there might have experienced the same thing I did. Well, if so, then hopefully you've survived the ordeal just like I have. More than anything, though, I just really wanted to warn the rest of you, whatever you do, don't buy the new iPhone SE. And that's it.
Yay! Bravo, sir.
I love it.
So that was a fun one. That's sort of. I realized I do a lot of different representation with different groups, and this was one of my LGBTQ plus like shout outs. Like it was really important to me to get in that headspace. So I consulted with a couple of really good friends of mine in that community who are also like very tech savvy and very into Apple. Because as you all know, I do not like Apple anything. So this was sort of like that. But I'm also a big fan of the unreliable narrator trope. So that was also a lot of fun to sort of add in there.
And hi, Mike.
Yeah, Mike?
Hi, Mike.
I'm sorry, Dave. I'm afraid I can't do that.
You had to have that vibe. I knew that when I started writing it.
Be careful, Mike. Be careful.
Yeah, those iPhones, man, they'll fuck you.
Yes.
How?
I stick with my as old as possible Android that I don't do anything on. So they're like, I do all this stuff. I'm like, I make phone calls
Oh yeah.
and I text, and I have a computer for everything else.
And I apologize. When I was trying to grab something, I didn't realize that I was grabbing one of the longest stories I'd ever written until I was about halfway through, and I looked at what was left, and I'm like, I've already started it now.
I loved it. It
Thanks,
was
Mike.
very creepy pasta EE.
Yes, thank you. That was definitely the vibe.
I want to go ahead and go next because your story reminded me of what I wrote because we both used certain implements in our story,
Nice.
which is weird. So, this is something that I wrote last night, and it started off as a short story, and then it turned into something that's going to be a collection of short stories if it seems to work out. So, you guys are my test audience. Let me know if you think this sounds like something that would work out as something more than just a short. So, here we go. Oh, it helps if I scroll up to the beginning to start it. Bertie found the head in her refrigerator when she was making breakfast on Saturday morning. It was behind the milk. She dropped the milk and screamed, and then it screamed back, and then she slammed the door shut on it. She picked up the half-empty gallon of milk and put it on the counter. She started a pot of coffee and sat down at the kitchen table and stared at the fridge. She was pretty sure that there hadn't been a head in the night before, though she hadn't looked behind the milk, but surely she would have noticed, wouldn't she? She could hear sounds coming from inside the fridge still, someone talking to her rather loudly to be able to be heard through the door, she guessed. It definitely hadn't spoken to her the night before. She waited until she had a cup of coffee with a dash of milk and a few spoons of sugar, and then opened the door again to put the milk away. Oh, thank you. Please don't. She closed the door with the milk in front of her head again and sat down to drink her coffee. There was a talking head in her fridge. It seemed polite enough, but it was still, well, a head. She could hear it getting a bit louder, so she took her coffee to sit the she took her coffee to the deck and sat in the shade and listened to the birds for a while. There had been a lot of strange things that she'd had to deal with since she'd moved into the house. Most of them were easy enough to get around, just avoid certain rooms during certain times and pretend nothing else was wrong. Throw a few pounds of raw meat into the small room in the back of the cellar every few days and fill the bowl of water if it had been shoved through the flap door. Little things. She couldn't avoid her fridge, unless maybe the head would only be there at certain times. She could avoid the fridge during certain hours of the day if that's what she needed to do. Start using powdered creamer for her coffee in the morning, maybe. No, that wouldn't do it at all. She'd had to give up too much already to live here. She wasn't giving up the milk in her morning coffee. She went back inside, poured herself another cup, and set it on the table. Then she opened the fridge again and grabbed the milk. Hello, can you see me? Please don't shut me in here again. She let the doors fall shut and fixed her coffee and then set the milk on the counter. With a sigh, she opened the door. Please, can you see me? The head was sitting inside one of her cake pans, lined with tin foil with tongs locked in place in the back of the head and wedged into the bottom of the pan to hold it upright. It looked to be cleanly cut from its body. The head appeared to be that of a middle-aged man with mousy brown hair and a goatee with whispers of gray sprinkled in. Milky blue eyes stared out at her, wide and frantic, and its teeth were toothpaste commercial white. Ding! When it opened its mouth to shout at her. Stop! She pointed at it. Just for a minute. I can see you. I'm going to take you out and set you on the table, and then we're going to talk. It started to open its mouth again. I said stop, or I'll shut you back in there again. Once it closed its mouth, grumbling under its breath, and how was it breathing? She picked up the cake pan, set it over on the table across from her coffee, put the milk away, and sat down to stare at it. So what's the deal? Who are you, and why are you in my fridge? I'm Stanley. I have no idea why I was in your refrigerator, but it's very cold in there and dark. I think you have something that expired recently as well. Maybe some turkey? Stanley looked up at her and shrugged his eyebrows. Thanks. I'll give it a spot. He seemed to tolerate anything. When did you end up in there? Why did you end up in there? I'm not quite sure. I don't think it's been terribly long, but I am very cold. I remember being at a party, then things get hazy. I must have blacked out for a bit, but I do recall waking up and being brought into your kitchen and wedged up on this pan. They threatened to stab my eyes out if I made any noise. And then they put me in the fridge. Then nothing but silence and cold until you opened the door, he said. You realize you're just a head, yes? Unfortunately, yes, but I don't recall how that happened. Do you think I was put in there to keep me from decaying? I don't want to decay. Maybe you should keep me in the crisper. Would that help? Stanley looked worried. I'm not keeping you in my crisper. I don't want to keep you at all. Do you know who brought you into my home? Bertie hadn't heard a thing the night before. Granted, she'd been rather drunk, and there was a distinct possibility that she had left the door to the deck unlocked after she'd come in from outside listening to her music on her headphones. If she tried to listen to music anywhere inside the house between midnight and 5 a.m., all she was able to hear was ragtime bands, thanks to the lady in the drawing room, so she used her deck during the warmer months. No, they were wearing a mask and a cloak. They had a very low voice and terrible cuticles. It took them a while for me to get me to stand up. No regard for my comfort at all, just manhandling my face as they tried over and over to get something that would keep me propped up. You might want to wash the rest of your utensils. I think they just put back anything that didn't work in the drawer. I certainly didn't hear the sink being used, Stanley said. Bertie grimaced and got up, loading her dishwasher with everything from her silverware and random cooking utensils drawers. What's your last name? Do you have family? Anyone who might be looking for you? Stanley paused and thought for a moment. Not that I can recall. I'm actually not sure my name is Stanley, but that's what the person who put me in there kept calling me. If you make noise, I'll take out your eyes, Stanley. I hope you don't catch a cold, Stanley. Just imagine sneezing like this. Be sure to give the little birdie our message, Stanley, and you might just get your body back. I don't suppose you have a parakeet or something? Bertie had frozen at that last statement. You have a message for a birdie? What's the message? What did they tell you? I think that's supposed to be between me and the bird. I thought maybe they were taunting me. How would a bird give them an answer? I'm the bird. My name is Bertie. Now what did they tell you to tell me? That's a very unexpected name, I'm sorry, Stanley said. Though maybe you should have introduced yourself when you took me out. Manners and all that. They said that I was supposed to tell you that if you let them meet in the woods by the little shack on nights when there's a new moon and stay off of your deck and mind your own business, they'll leave you alone. If not, you can expect more trouble. They would also appreciate a couple of cases of cold beer left in the shack, as it's quite a hassle to carry everything into the woods. Then something about taking care of your ragtime gal if you did something. I can't remember. Was very confusing, and I wasn't perhaps paying the best attention. Suddenly being ahead and being told you need to pass a message to a bird is rather overwhelming, you know? Did they tell you how I was supposed to reply to them? Bertie asked. Like I said, I wasn't really paying attention. I thought they were mocking me. Something about the shack, but I don't know exactly. Stanley shrugged his eyebrows again. Do you think they really kept my body? I hope it's cold too. Is there a deep freeze in this shack? I might get a bit whiffy if there isn't. Bertie was looking at moon cycles on her cell phone. Tonight's a new moon, thankfully, so I probably can just drop you off then. You're a rather useless messenger, you know? Did they specify what type of beer? Stanley goggled a bit at her. You're taking this all rather calmly. After the initial screaming, that is. Do you often get messages from talking heads? Bertie was glaring at him. I remember something about Heineken when they were discussing it on the way here, although someone mentioned Guinness as well. Of course they wouldn't be fans of Keystone. I have cultists with taste in my woods, Bertie muttered to herself. To answer your question, no. But a lot of weird shit happens here. You're just one of many things I've had to deal with in the past year. What about my body? Is there a freezer? Stanley asked urgently. I have no idea. I've never entered the shack. It just seemed begging for trouble, and I have enough already. Time to put you back and go shopping, I guess. Are you sure you can't remember anything more about the ragtime gal? And no, it seemed like a bunch of nonsense at the time. What do you mean you're putting me away? I have to go buy them some beer. Do you want to take a chance at decomposing? Stanley seemed to try and shake his head vehemently. I almost forgot about that. Please put me back. Although, could you give me a light? Maybe some music? Bertie picked up the cake pan and stuck it in the fridge, this time in front of the milk. Are you sure I shouldn't be in the crisper? She shut the door and sighed again, then went to get ready for shopping. In the late afternoon, Bertie entered the shack in the woods. She was hauling behind her a cooler filled with Heineken, Guinness, ice, and, sitting atop it, a smaller cooler with Stanley tucked inside, making quite a ruckus. There was indeed a large freezer there, though she didn't look inside of it. She hadn't realized there was electricity running out into the shack. It must have just rolled onto her electric bill from the main house. She took out a pen and hastily added, If you bring out a refrigerator, it will be much easier to keep the beer supplied, to the note she had written for the cultists. She had agreed to let them have the woods to themselves and provide them with beer, told them that Stanley was rather useless, and asked for more information about the deal for the ragtime gal, as she really wanted to be able to listen to music on winter nights without having to go outside. She said she hoped the reply could be with a note this time rather than another head. She provided them with a notebook and a fresh pack of pens, as well as some tape. She opened the lid to Stanley's cooler. He was making as much noise as he could with a sock stuffed in his mouth. She waited until he stopped trying to talk and then picked him up and held him close to her face. If you get your body back, do not come back to my house. I don't want to see you again, any part of you. If I see you, I will feed you to Spot. You can let them know that as well. He made a last valiant effort at spitting the sock out and speaking. Do you want me to staple the note to your forehead? Leave you sitting out here for something else to eat before they get here? I can't rely on you to give them my reply, so at this point it's up to you. Do you understand? Stanley made what sounded like an acknowledgement, and she stuck him back in the cooler and set it atop the larger one full of beer. Bertie walked back home before the sun started to set and prepared herself for an early night with no music. She still had to feed Spot, unload her dishwasher, set up the dolls in the pink room for a tea party, and, as it was Saturday, put 3 oranges into the linen cupboard on the second floor. She was still learning all the ways of the house. Maybe this cult or whatever they were could help her once they became more comfortable with her around. They seemed to know about her music problem. For now, she could go back to trying to figure out how to make the stomper in the attic stop making such a racket. Maybe some slippers would help. Some really thick slippers. And that is that story. So, yeah.
Nice. I really like that one, man. That was fucking amazing.
I love that. I want more of that series.
Yeah, I really get new Dell
feel like-
stuff.
I feel like that ends with "and scene."
Right?
Yes.
Right? That'd be epic.
Yeah, it's I started writing just with the head because somebody, an old friend of mine, who used to do a cable access show, had wanted to do this thing where a skit where I was going to be just a head in his refrigerator out at this cabin, and I've like he's since passed and he never got to do the show, and so I've always been like the head in the fridge, man, the head in the fridge. So I decided to write about the head in the fridge, and suddenly it became like, oh, she's very nonchalant about the head in the fridge because she has all this other shit happening. So,
Oh no, I like the way that the story plays out because at the beginning, you have no explanation for why there's a talking head in the fridge or anything, and she doesn't seem surprised by this, not even put off in the slightest, just more annoyed than anything. But then as the story progresses and you find out the evolution that there's a cult doing supernatural stuff in the woods behind her house, and then it keeps progressing from there where you find out that maybe the house might not be just a house, and you start introducing all of these new concepts. So I think that it would lend itself very easily to a series of stories introducing all of the different segments of the house and what the supernatural is that's happening here, and maybe possibly developing the backstory of Stanley and how he became a head. And that could be one of the overarching fundamentals that ties all of the short stories together.
yeah, awesome. I
Hell yeah.
I was hoping that I could try to work something on that. So yeah. Okay, so that was my story, and it will hopefully turn into something more soon.
I hope so.
If I
I
fit
feel
it.
really blessed for a new Dell story, personally. It's been
Yes,
too
I
long.
am. I'm very blessed for both of y'all stories. And Wolf, would you like to go next?
Absolutely.
All right, let me pull you up. Bum, bum.
Ta-da. I have to give a little bit of context for this story and the reason why I chose to read it. Recently, we had a writing workshop at the Bexley Public Library with one of my good friends, Rami Unger, who is also a horror writer and has several books published. So it was his writing workshop. And while we were there, we did a flash fiction writing exercise based off of a 2-sentence prompt. The prompt that Rami gave us was, I said I wanted to do something different for date night. I didn't expect the date to be in a cemetery. And then go from there. We had, I think, maybe 5 minutes, 10 minutes, something like that, to write as much as we could with that particular prompt. So the story I'm about to read started with that 2 sentences, and then I had the idea in my mind and I wanted to flesh it out. And the reason why I chose this story to read is because it's the one that I started talking to Raz about to do the horror anthology. So it's kind of the story that started this whole process. So the story is called Date Night. I said I wanted to do something different for date night, Jake said as he looked around at the crumbling gravestones before him. I didn't expect the date to be in a cemetery. Come on, Allie said as she danced around in the moonlight that permeated through the scraggle bare tree covers. Where's your sense of adventure, of romance? The moon through the barren branches cast ominous shadows that seemed to move in a random rhythms as if breathing some long-forgotten chant in the whispers of the wind. Oh, I can be romantic, Jake replied, his eyes darting around as if expecting to see a grave suddenly open and a rotted arm extend toward him. But it's much easier to be romantic on a beach, in the sun, during the summer, not in a graveyard on Halloween night. They're coming for you, Barbara, Allie mimicked as she clawed her hands out toward him with huge open eyes. Jake grabbed her and pulled her into a deep kiss. And I'm here for it, he said. Just then, a twig snapped elsewhere in the darkness, causing Jake's heart to jump. He pulled away, his face white, all senses on alert. Allie laughed. Relax, she started. It's just some animal. Until they heard the voice. Join us. It was a chalky and shrill arpeggio. If it were possible to give a voice to decades of crypt rot and countless years of mourning and longing, it was conveyed in just those two words. Jake barely saw the glint of something metallic rise behind Allie and swing down in a sickle-like manner. Without thinking, he grabbed her and forcefully dove out of its path. The top of a tomb marker in the form of a cross exploded over them, raining debris of old marble chunks. The metallic glint disappeared as suddenly as it had appeared. Allie screamed. Run! Jake shouted. Gaining their feet, they started to do exactly that. However, as mysteriously as the glint had appeared, a strong burst of wind manifested, picking them both up and slamming them into the side of a mausoleum wall. Allie hit the ground hard and lay motionless. Jake had caught the brunt of the impact on his back and grunted as he tried to remain upright. Allie, he said as the wind subsided a little. Allie, he repeated, shaking her shoulder. She stirred and mumbled, Come on, let's get out of here. Allie tried to pull herself into a sitting position, but before she had a chance, Jake was already on his feet and pulling her up. The wind was picking up again, and no sooner had they both regained their feet, the metallic glint appeared, this time leaving a gaping wound in the mausoleum wall where their heads had just been. Allie once again screamed, causing her feet to get in motion as the two began running. Jake could not remember there being so many trees when they had arrived at the cemetery, as they were now being pelted on all sides by branches as they ran toward the gates and the hopeful safety of Jake's car. Just then, Allie went down again, hitting the ground. She screamed, It's got me, Jake! He stopped running and turned, expecting to see his worst fear, the arm extending from the grave. But fortunately, he saw her foot had only gotten caught by some exposed, twisted roots. He quickly worked to free her foot, but the wind had been chasing them, and the pelting of the branches was relentless, making his work slow and tedious. Jake tried to shield himself as well as he could as he worked to unwind the brambles from her ankle. As the vines loosened, Allie managed to slide her foot out of her sneaker. I'm free, she shouted. Let's get out of here. Just then the metallic glint was back, this time slicing down and severing the roots and Allie's sneaker. This was all the prompting they needed as they started running toward the gates again. The wind and the branches tried to impede their path, but they persevered, getting ever closer to the exit. Jake could see the white of his Honda Accord just beyond, and the sight of it motivated him. Taking hold of Allie's hand, he forged forward, pulling her along. As they grew closer to the exit, there was a small clearing. No branches pelted them. The wind had died down. It was the reprieve they needed to cover the final distance, bursting through the gates, breathing heavily. They made it to Jake's Honda. Come on, said Allie, hurry. Jake looked around. It was quiet. The sky was clear. It all seemed calm. I think we're safe, he said. I don't think it can come past the gate. Yeah, well, I'm not willing to take that chance, she retorted. Jake fumbled in his pockets for his keys, but to his horror, he found his pocket was empty. Frantically, he patted his pants, hoping he had misplaced them. No luck. He checked his jacket. Nothing. His face drained when the realization hit him. What? Allie said in disbelief. I think the keys fell out of my pocket when we hit that mausoleum, Jake admitted. He gulped with resolution. We need to go back in there. Are you crazy? Chimed Allie. I'm not going back in there. I'll go then. You wait here. Allie threw her arms up in exasperation. Do we have a choice? It's 5 miles to town. Do you want to take that chance and walk it? Fine, exclaimed Allie. Jake steeled himself as he made his way back to the gate. He turned to look at Allie. Then, with as much courage as he could muster, he entered. Allie huffed. Wait, she said. I'm coming with you. Jake took her hand and led her as they made their way back to the mausoleum. They peered around cautiously, but the wind, though still blowing, was not threatening. The treetops swayed, but made no move to pelt them as they traversed the distance. Jake was more concerned with the mysterious glint that had almost caught them 3 times now. But there was no glint, no voice, no menacing eyes from the darkness as they rounded the corner to the mausoleum. Then Jake pulled up short as his heart leapt into his throat. Allie, unexpecting, slammed against his back. What? She asked again, trying to peer over his shoulder. Jake could not find the words as he merely raised his hand and pointed. There, lying on the ground at the base of the wall of the mausoleum, were two bodies bearing their likenesses. A rigid look of fear was frozen on the body of Allie as blood slowly dripped from her eye sockets. Across the chest of the Jake body was a large gash, causing his inwards to splay outward, a pool of blood and entrails forming on the ground. Allie and Jake stood in paralytic shock as they stared down at their bodies. Another cold wave tantalized their spines as the voice returned. Welcome. You're one of us now. As Jake and Allie slowly turned, they saw the denizens of the cemetery, dressed in their tattered burial clothes, rotted and fetid, staring at them with blank expressions. And on the wind, the voice whispered, "So glad you could join us."
Love it, love it, love it, love it, love it.
That was amazing, man. I love that.
That was great.
Well, thank
And
you.
I love the voice. The voice
Yeah.
was great.
You good story writer and good narrator, man.
Hell yeah, you are, man.
I appreciate that.
Dude, I'm so glad like that we met and I was able to like get you that information. Like, dude, like seriously. Welcome to us, welcome to what we do.
Well,
So now we're doing two things in life together, man. We're haunting and we're writing together now.
Well, I'm hoping that there will be more of the writing now that I'm into it. I'm trying to use this as motivation to make me write more.
Good. And if
Okay.
you need extra motivation, message any of us at any time and we'll kick you right in the pants because that's what we do to each other all the time.
Yeah.
Absolutely. You got it.
And you're definitely welcome for the next episode.
Oh, thank you. I've got
Yeah,
more
man.
stories.
Hell yeah.
Yay!
And we do a lot, like as you know, I think you've only seen this in padded cell because we have a tendency to do a lot of extra padded cells when the mood strikes us. But we do a lot of other author-based shows and all kinds of other weird shows. More coming up soon, so we'll definitely I'll hit you up for more stuff, man.
All right.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely.
All right. Jenny,
So-
are you ready?
I'm ready if you guys are. Okay, my story is not horror whatsoever. Mine comes from a meme. What can you talk on for 25 minutes without preparation? And from the thought of being not thrown into a like talking situation in front of a large crowd. So I took that and I also made it an ode to 5 of my favorite authors. Dr. Nairi Bacallion, a history historian, N.J. Sullivan, who totally believes in what we're doing and has his own thing that he does with his wife on Lantern Audio Work, Todd Tinker, who you guys have met on my show before, Unprinted Pages, and his help in teaching others to world build, Patty, of course, and her poetry, and of course Raz and his want to tell stories and teach others why telling stories should continue. So yeah, mine is that, but with that trope of you've been giving a stupid amount of money to come to this random place that sounds weird to do something. So, okay. My ode to all 5 of you beautiful people for giving me a beautiful world. Calanthua walked into the backstage area. She had read all of the 5 authors that surrounded her. She still didn't understand what her role was or why she was there. The authors had formed a semicircle around Monique. They all looked confused or annoyed. Oh, thank the goddess, Cal is here. We might actually pull this off. Monique's shoulders relaxed and she looked like the world was lifted from her shoulders. Apparently, Calla was no Atlas. Let's first go back to the beginning of this social experiment as it was explained to me. She asked her friend in hopes she could make sense of it. We all received invitations with the airfare, full expenses paid, and an extra $3,000 to come give a speech here at the French Lick Resort in beautiful Indiana. According to guidelines, we have met 2 hours early to bang out a game plan. That's where you come in handy, Kala. You are the one who brings coordination to the chaos. Each of these authors have very different genres. She indicated the people beside her with a palm up arm sweep, like she was showing her the new car she was winning. You said before she showed up that we have to give a speech. That was not in the invitation. Just to show up for the author seminar, Tommy asked. In my notes, this professor said you were to study up on their career and we have to MC this event that we didn't know we were starring in. Monique handed Kala the paper with the instructions. She quickly read through it. Okay, everyone, think of something you can give a 25-minute talk on, and if you have pictures that can go with it, send them from your device to Monique. She explained as she looked around at all the people around her. They talked and conferred and pulled base outlines together because 3,000 to pull off a meme from the internet would be one hell of a story to tell. It was time to get the show started. Kala walked to the stage to see people from all walks of life in the crowd. Suits and ties, t-shirts and jeans, and bright, colorful ethnic outfits from many cultures. The doors were shut and the lights dropped just to the stage lighting up. Kala walked to the podium and took a deep breath. Welcome to Author's Browser History. Tonight we will share about different aspects of storytelling and different ways to tell stories. Our first speaker is a doctor of Japanese history and is an Armenian American. She will teach us about culture and what it means in real life and in storytelling. A lovely Armenian woman with blue hair, Lee Avagain, walked to the stage to a thumping Japanese power ballad played on Japanese instruments. She talked about how culture is important to the story, how her culture as an Armenian, as well as the genocide of her people, have colored her world and view of life. She explained how being trans and living as a woman has made her life feel more like the person she should be. She has a love for Japanese history and culture and received a doctorate in Japanese history. Her love of Japanese history and culture can be seen in her work, religion, and everyday life. They gave a thunderous standing ovation as Kala walked up to the podium to take her place. Thank you, Dr. Avegan. It is a Armenian word name that I don't really know, so if I have butchered it, please forgive me. For teaching us how culture is woven in everything in our lives. Thank you for giving us glimpses of the beauty of becoming our true selves and you being you. Please check out her webpage and read her books and articles. Our next guest will enlighten us on how audio storytelling can grip us in fascination today as it has in the past. Please welcome Tommy Schreibner to the stage. They applauded as he came to the stage and Kala left. Tommy walked up to the podium to the beat of the rock music they picked out for his entrance. He started out his speech with what he believes should be the right reason to create. Every piece of content that is published should be something that you as the creator should be happy and proud of. He explained how audio dramas have delighted people for decades. Writing scripts for audio dramas differs from writing short stories and novels. How sound can entice the mind as well as shock and frighten. He finished with his speech with a clip of 3 minutes that took 32 hours to make. It told a story concisely and beautifully. The crowd gave gave another standing ovation of thunderous applause. Thank you, Mr. Shriver, for teaching us about audio storytelling. Please go listen to his stories on Spotify and wherever else you find podcasts. I love his printed works as well. Our next speaker has many ongoing stories with so much lore built in. Please welcome Delphine Holt. The audience applauded again as he came to the stage and Kala left. Delphine Holt, a trans man dressed to the nines in purple with steampunk glasses, walked out to a sea shanty. He told us of world building. That word is hard today. And why is it important to the story? The laws of nature and magic that govern land in ways the reader doesn't always see. The difference between household, cultural politics, and government politics, how both govern entire lives and lands, social interactions from birth to death, and how entire worlds can be made better by admitting personal truths to oneself. Thank you, dear sir, for teaching us how to start thinking how worlds are made. Learning about transhumaning from two very different trans people is magnificent. There is so much more to learn in his book. Please go check out all of his works on the website. Our next guest is Dr. Slasher. He is known for his stories and teaching the many ways of telling stories as we have in the past around campfire. The audience applauded as he came on to the stage and Kala left. Dr. Slasher walked out in a dark blue suit that made him look like a wise old owl to one of his favorite songs by the band he was in when he was younger. He began explaining how stories were originally told around friends and family circles. These stories conveyed information, teaching, or entertainment. How there were many ways to tell stories by words, audio dramas, as Mr. Shriver has explained with his wonderful speech. There are silent films and episodes of newer media that have conveyed stories through visual storytelling. How Monster and Lamageddon can give dumb fun in storytelling. The world needs storytellers and sitting with friends, talking about experiences and made up stories to relax, kickstart creativity and to find the meaning of life. Everyone stood, and the applause was just as thunderous before. Thank you all for learning with me about storytelling. He has stories everywhere on YouTube and in print. Please go check them out. Our last speaker will teach us about how important our story is to tell. The audience applauded as she came to the stage and Kala left. The last speaker walked out to the podium in her black dress, bat glasses, chain, and elf ears to the instrumental music that felt like fairies flying in the forest. Serene Rose showed the poetry of the soul is just as important as the fictional stories. Our stories show who we are and how we got where we are. We can find a path by finding others who have had experiences like ours because many feel alone and unwanted as we have. We can help each other find strength and carry on by having the courage to tell our story. Our story can give courage that can lead to healing and building a life that can make them happy. Serene received a standing ovation. Kala and the other authors came back out on stage. Kala traded places with her and gave a closing speech. She thanked them all for joining them and learning with her from the wonderful authors gathered with her today. They all bowed and went backstage to find the professor waiting for them. Thank you for your part in this study. You will each be sent the full report when it's finished. He walked away. They all just stood staring. And that's the story.
Good job. Very nice tribute to people. I knew who you. Well, I don't know all of them, but I knew who you.
I know you knew two of them.
Yeah, you did very, very good with them.
Not gonna lie, I might have been partial to Dr. Slasher, but that's just me.
Well, I would hope so because that is most definitely you, and just tidbits of what you teach.
And honestly, I really love this because like we talk so much about how we don't just do horror during campfire. And today actually we were very horror heavy. And some days we are, some days it's all horror, but then we have days where none of it's horror. So it's really cool like that we always make sure to exemplify a lot of different things about what storytelling can be. Because here we are, we're writing our own stories, which is storytelling. We're narrating stories, and we're talking about the stories. So it's all like layers upon layers of storytelling for you guys today.
It's funny that you mentioned that, Raz, because when I was 19, and that was many
For all of
moons
us.
ago. When I was 19, I actually wrote an epic poem that is in 3 parts. So, I mean, it's fairly long. I don't know if I could get through like all 3 parts on a stream, but I could read at least the first one. It's not horror, it's fantasy. It's dragons and
We
mythology,
want that.
things
Oh,
like
yeah.
that.
We want
Oh,
it.
yes.
But
We
Yeah.
are
it's
intrigued.
been such a part of my life that I've kind of built my identity around it, I suppose.
I think I have a plan for this. What
Uh-oh.
about you join us the next 3 times that we do the Outlight Society, and
Okay.
each one you read a part of it? Because you said it's 3 parts, right?
Yeah, it's 3 parts.
I think that would be like pretty fucking awesome for like to get you on here 3 more times and do it as like a series for people.
Okay. Yeah. I like
Yeah,
that
if you'd be
idea.
down for that, I mean, I think that would be like that would make it extra special. I think
For Sunday nights, I'm
it's not every Sunday that we do Outlight Society. It's usually once or twice a month we do it because we do rotating shows. But like I would let you know like obviously like in advance.
well, the story itself or the poems themselves, they've never actually been published in anything. It's always
Wow.
been in my personal collection. I had it posted on my website a long time ago when I actually had a website. I don't have one now. So I toyed with the idea of possibly submitting it for one of the
February.
compilation of poetry for Fake Horror.
February.
In February.
Yeah, that's right. That's
You
the next.
send it by February 1st. You can send it now if you want. Just say you're wanting it to be submit it for that particular anthology.
Okay.
But the
Oh,
next
yeah.
one she's collecting ends for February the 1st.
Well, when I started writing it, I actually majored in creative writing in college and did a fair bit of poetry. And of course, they teach you all about scansion and rhyming meter and the rhyme scheme, like A A B B C C D D E F E F G G, like the Shakespearean sonnets. So that was very much at the forefront of my mind when I was writing this. So I was very particular about trying to keep to a certain rhythm and a certain rhyme scheme. And somehow across 3 separate poems, I managed to keep it that way. Like the rhyme scheme changes from poem to poem, but then by the end of it, I'll tie it all back together. So it's contiguous.
Nice.
Cool.
Yeah, I
Sounds
think that's
gorgeous.
gonna be perfect. We'll do a special thing, and like I said, the next 3 Allied Societies we do, I'll let you know like in advance, like when we're gonna do them. Because like I said, we switch up our Sundays. That way we can get you on here and each time do a piece of it.
Okay, absolutely. I'm not just a one-trick pony with just writing horror.
Oh yeah, hell yeah.
And we we cut these up after we're done with them too, so we do just so that if people don't have time to watch the whole show or they just want to hear specific stories, we have Campfire Cinders as another playlist that has each story broken down so people can go through, and if they want to, they'll have all 3 parts there that they can listen to.
That's
be
Bell's
great.
way of saying, Raz, hurry up and get those other videos cut because I haven't in a while.
No.
I'm
It's all
teasing you. I'm actually going to be getting on that. I have to get to this week, man, because so we got our banquet on Sunday. I have to edit this giant video that I always do for our banquets and awards. I've got like another audio thing I've got to edit, plus the dance that I was just talking about. I have to edit that video before the banquet. So once I'm done with all that editing and a little bit farther into Nano, I'm going to sit down and cut all the individual things for our extra little playlists on YouTube after that. And that's going to add like probably another 20 or so video. Actually, another 30 or so videos to our collection, and we have already well over 100 on YouTube.
Wow.
Yeah, it's like 130 or 140 something.
Dude, I think it's like the quickest growing catalog from any show or network ever at this point in time, because it's been still not 6 months that we've had our own network, and the amount of stuff that we have on there is insane.
Yeah, it's getting a little nuts. But
I
for
have yet to
those of you who
find a
want to keep
problem with
getting,
it.
Yeah,
yeah.
neither.
But by the way, if you're watching us out on YouTube, please subscribe. Like the
Yes.
video if you like them. Give us a comment here or there. Do something like that. We would love it. And wherever you're watching, give us a like. Go to Twitch and follow us there. Doesn't cost you anything, and we can hopefully get some better content coming out for you, because we do want to do some stuff on Twitch coming up in the future. We want to do some gaming stuff,
Yeah.
and in order for us to allow you to participate with us, we have to have at least 50 followers, not subscribers, followers on Twitch. All
Yep.
of them are different, but yeah. So
Yeah, come to the Outlight Network. It'll be a hoot.
Come to the Outlight Network, they said. Tell some stories, they said.
You will gain a super fan named Friday.
yes, and you'll get to meet all sorts of fun people like us.
Oh yeah.
We're
Yay.
super fun. Trust me. Sometimes. We can have fun. And you'll have a drunk squirrel that will hang out with you too. Ratatosker loves get drunk and hang out and squirrel out with us. But
I have a sloth.
you have a sloth?
A sloth.
Ooh, yay!
Hell yeah.
And then you have the weirdo who's sewing skull and crossbone patches. The sloth is the best. I love the sloth. It makes me happy.
I have Cthulhu pops out sometimes. I have all sorts of little stuffies here. I have a gnome that needs to go through the wash because the dresser people stole him for about half a year and finally returned him. So he's going to go through the
Speaking of
wash.
slothies.
Yes.
So on the last episode, we were talking about Halloween sloth. That was Christmassy. And we also have a Sonya. So the Sonya, like, don't worry, I got you. And hold on, I'm trying to download it.
Okay. We get pictures. Her kids are like, "Hey, you're playing with a software? That's cool. Look, I'm gonna do something that's 30,000 times cooler than anything you or your friends could do in like 5 minutes or something, and just put you all to shame."
Yeah,
Because
2 days, and I'm like, I feel this is that sloth that my sisters promised because they
Yay.
wanted something that was both Halloweeny and Christmas, and this is what she did. So, thank you, Sonya.
oh, it was a Sonya, not a Sophie. Okay.
No,
Yes,
that was
yes.
a Sonya, not the Soapy.
Okay.
Soapy is obsessed with. Okay, this has nothing to do with the person in chat because I have no idea who it is. We've been watching a lot of Shimmer and Shine, so they have been playing genies. So I have 2 kids pretending they are genies, and I have no idea why that person in chat was pretending to be one and trolling us because I don't know who they are. But
I had fun with them. I was almost sad that we banned them because I was quite enjoying their whatever that whole thing was.
It was just getting to be annoying, though.
Oh no, it was totally annoying, but for some reason I was laughing really hard about it over here. But what it was going to devolve into was just me with snotty ass comebacks because I'm really good at that. I was just going to be a smart ass the whole time for a future show, but
Yeah.
that's okay.
So, yeah. By the way, don't troll because then you won't be able to watch us anymore.
We're smarter and better trolls than you. I can promise you that.
I don't care if you're on Twitch, I will come ban you there. She banned you on YouTube. We can ban you on Facebook. We don't do trolls.
I will ban you from your home.
Oh my god! I was reading a Harry Potter fanfic, and there was something where house elves had control over like houses themselves. They'd be like, "This is no longer your home," and suddenly the house would start like attacking whoever lived in it. And so
That
they
is
had
like,
to like,
wow.
yeah, so they had to like apologize to the house elves and get on their good side so that they could go back into their own house because they started following them wherever they went and like, and this is no home to you either. And yeah, it was rather fun.
That is
Hey
insane.
Siri, adjust the brightness of the lights by 50%. I'm sorry, you do not live here anymore.
Basically, yeah.
I'm sorry, Chris. This isn't your home anymore.
That was awesome.
Oh, Raz, I wanted to ask you a question about your story.
Oh yeah.
There was a part in the story where Chris was talking about the clothes that she was wearing. She said maybe a gray tank top.
It was a he.
And I felt like, see, that was my second question that I was going to ask. Said maybe a gray tank top, and I felt like this was author license by you wondering, am I putting too much detail in the story? Is this really necessary? Do I need to put this in here? But then you said, is that too much detail? And then you looked at it and you read it and you said, yeah, it fits the character voice. And you just rolled with it and you went with it and you left it in.
So
it's the kind of thing where an editor could have read through it and is like, why are you saying all of this? It's like, it's not pertinent to the story. But then when it's like kind of breaking the fourth wall, but kind of not at the same time, because you're injecting yourself into the story. And I thought that was really interesting, the way that you did that. And throughout the entire story, and this is getting to your point, it's a he. Throughout the entire story, you never once reveal the gender of who Chris is, but you lay little details like it's my purse, or I put my hair in a towel. These are all things that we would naturally think that possibly a female would do after she gets out of the shower or she carries around a purse. And I thought, that's really interesting, because then after you read the story, you said this was one that you did for LGBTQ. And I went, And I thought that was just an interesting point, that you never once actually specified the gender of Chris in the story. And then you realize it doesn't matter.
Yep.
Yeah. Because it could have been a really, like my buddy Jay, very feminine traits, or actual female. So, yeah.
So
Jay
to
was awesome at
sum it
prom.
up as quickly as my my wordiness will allow me to. Fred always tells me that I'm really too wordy at the haunt, so I keep it to small paragraphs for Fred. Love you, Fred. I know you're not listening, but I love you anyway. So the biggest thing to me about representation is that you don't have to remind everybody every 5 seconds that you're doing it, because that is life. Those are the people that are all around you. And I think sometimes people go too far, almost to an insulting level with representation, and I would never, ever, ever want to do that. So that was a really big deal to me. And I do this a lot with a lot of my stories. Well, my stories that are wrote in this format that I'll explain in a minute, I don't mention gender. I don't mention any defining traits about someone, what culture they are or anything, because anyone should be able to read the stories that I write in this style and feel like it could have been them or someone they know. So that's really important to me, that it's not even just LGBTQ plus. It's inclusiveness, period, I guess, is the way I did it. It's just that this one was actually modeled after a couple of very close drag queen friends of mine who literally talk exactly how I wrote, questioning themselves if there's too much detail. They call their bag their purse. They put their hair up, because sometimes they wash their wigs while they're taking the bath or in the shower, and they leave it attached with a cap, and they will still wrap their hair. So that, to me, was like one of those little details. As far as the format, and again, also the questioning, is this too much detail? So this was something I wrote for the No Sleep subreddit, and there are rules in writing that you have to follow when you're writing for that subreddit. Obviously, the most known one is anything you read on Reddit is real, and any comment you make has to perpetuate the story for the storytelling universe. Also, you have to write in certain tenses. Traditionally, that's going to be first person. And it's got to feel like a real story, like a real person is actually writing this and saying this. And because it's written as a post, that also changes the format and style in which you write the story. So pretty much all the choices I made were either inclusion or keeping to the No Sleep format. And really, anytime I write a short, 9 times out of 10, it's just going to be in that format anyway, even though I don't post there as much, because I just got so used to it, and it's so much fun to write it that way. I guess it's just kind of in my brain. So novels are like for third person omniscient. Short stories are for first person for me.
Yes, I mean, I don't get on Reddit very often, and I know that a lot of the stories from No Sleep did originate from there. The way that I listened to a lot of creepypasta, like Mr. Creepypasta, the
Yep.
podcast as well, and your story was very much in that same vein as a lot of the creepypastas that they have on that podcast.
I've
Yeah.
actually had one of mine on his, and got a number of them over on Chilling Tales. And I keep submitting to No Sleep too because I love the No Sleep podcast. One day.
I did submit one story to No Sleep, and they rejected it. So I don't know, what do I need to do?
I've
to
submitted
get on
over.
No
I
Sleep?
know. I've submitted over a dozen to them over the years, man. Like that's like the cream right there. I mean, honestly, Chilling Tales is equally as hard to get onto, and I have no idea how I've lucked out so many times with them, but hopefully I'll get on there again soon. I miss those guys.
I thought it was a
They're
really good
awesome.
story too. It's one of the stories that I plan on including in the anthology when it comes out. But it could be a possible future read for another episode of Owlite.
That would rock.
Nice.
Yeah. And like he was saying, they've been changing lately the format on No Sleep a lot. So it's like, oh, you can't include this. Oh, you can't include that. No, you have to include this part, but you can't have this part do the thing.
Yeah.
So
It's
You-
a
you
it's a
kind of-
constant challenge, I think. It's a learning experience to learn new techniques and styles to tell stories the way it updates. I just don't post on it as much because of time.
it's probably not the quality of your story so much as it violated one of the many rules of like you can't have a character that's this way or that way.
Well, the
Or
podcast is unaffiliated from the sub, so they don't follow the same rules. And there's a
Oh.
lot more things that you can do with the podcast than you can with the sub.
oh, okay.
They split off like I think within the first couple seasons or something. Like the first like I think by the season 3 or 4 of the podcast they'd already split from the sub. I'm wanting to say or something similar to that.
Well, in the beginning, like the first 2 seasons, I think David Cummings just read all of the stories until it started catching on and No Sleep became bigger. And
Yeah.
I think that's when most of the stories started becoming more audio dramas. And then you're getting more and more of the voice actors coming in and everybody's reading different lines. So it's more of an audio drama than it is an actual story. It's more scripted than story written.
Big time. He had a couple other narrators in the first 2 seasons, but you're right, not many. It was mostly him. And in season 3, they went to the paid model, and then they were able to hire people to come in and do so much more. And that's a show that I've been subscribing to since the beginning. I still listen to my No Sleep like nightly. That's how I go to bed. I literally turn on the No Sleep podcast. I listen to an episode or two and like pass out halfway through another episode.
I've listened to every episode up to this point. Now they release like Sunday nights, so when I go to work on Monday, it's like the first thing that I listen to in the morning, and then I have to wait a whole other week before another episode comes out.
I do this thing where I listen to every episode up until what's present, and then I start back at the beginning. So I'm actually like many seasons behind what's current because I just make it last, and I like to hear the same stories again and again. So I'm really weird about it. But now that they're doing the monthly thing, I may actually switch and start like going back to where I left off of originally, and just kind of shove through all the new stuff in a month.
It's still good. It's on what's it like 10 years old now? Then something over 10 years old.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, it's well over 10 years old. Oh my gosh. I think it's like 13 or so. I mean, there's so many seasons out now because they do like multiples a year. But yeah, it's definitely over 10.
Yeah, it definitely takes a while to binge it.
Yes, it does.
I don't even want to start at this point. I got
Actually-
so many other things that I have my own routine when I go to sleep though. So
I put it on Podcast Addict because the reading is slow and sometimes I need to hear things much faster. I'm the guy that will listen to an audiobook on double speed and understand every word. So I do that also with the podcasts.
Oh,
But
I
the
do.
podcasts are read a lot slower than audiobooks. So even at like 1.5 speed, sounds like a normal conversation.
I do podcasts and audiobooks because I basically forgot how to read after I graduated college. A little bit of background. When I was in college, I declared every major under the sun except English.
Nice.
So every major that I took, whenever I had an elective that I needed to fill out my schedule, I always chose an English class. One year, I'm majoring in Asian studies. I was trying to take Mandarin Chinese, and I had a creative writing class. I'm sitting down with my professor for the creative writing class. She's looking at my transcript. She said, "Do you realize you have enough credits that you could graduate in English within a year?" I went, "Tell me more."
That is epic, man.
And she's like, yeah, if you double up on your classes, you could graduate by a year. And I went, okay, let's do that. So I immediately went up to the counselor's office and said, I want to change my major again. I changed my major 5 times in college.
Nothing wrong with that, man. You get to learn a lot of different shit.
1990 to 92, and then 94 to 95, I was in a community college, and then 96 to 98, I went back to university and finally graduated.
I went to so many places, dude. Like, I got a film school degree when I was really young, but before the film school degree, I had a broadcasting degree. I dropped out when I was 16 and started college at 17. It was this whole thing. And then I went back later, got a medical degree, started another medical degree and had an accident and didn't get to finish. Then went back to community college for another associate's, got my bachelor's at another school, and now the master's. I like going back to school. That's my thing. I'm a career student. I'm not happy being still. And if I'm not in classes, the years that I'm not in school, I'm endlessly like watching videos to teach myself new shit all the time because I cannot stand just being still.
So you know how in senior level classes, you have a thesis paper that you're supposed to write or a research paper that's supposed to take the majority of that semester of that year. And then you're supposed to have all your sources cited, and it's supposed to be a big, long project, you know?
Yeah.
They do the same thing for creative writing, except it's a portfolio, not a research project or a thesis paper, but a portfolio. So you do all of the exercises, you write your character development stories, you write your environment development settings, so on and so forth. And then you combine all of this into a portfolio where you come up with one story that combines all of those elements. And that was my creative writing portfolio. The problem is that in order for me to graduate on time, I had to double up on these classes, which meant I was doing portfolios for both of my creative writing classes. So I was doubling up on the amount of reading and the amount of writing. And let me just say, I do not recommend this. It
is a
will drive
pain in
you
the ass.
absolutely nuts. And you will lose sleep. You will have many sleepless nights because you're up writing or you're up reading, and it was extremely tough to stay on top of it all. But I did it. I got through it. Even by the end of the semester, I was actually making an A in one class and then falling behind in the second one. But I had the same professor for both because she knew what I was doing.
Right.
It had already been approved. And she says, I'm going to give you more time to finish up all of the stuff for your second portfolio in the second class because, you know, I understand that you're doubling up, which was a godsend to me. It took me until after the semester was over and they had already turned in final grades, but I did get all of the work in. I got it all done. They allowed me to graduate, got my diploma, walked across the stage. I do not recommend it to anybody. Do not double up on your creative writing classes in college. It will drive you absolutely insane.
Agree, because I did that with calculus and pre-calculus and algebra.
God.
All 3 at once. And my teacher at one point told me I would fail. I decided to stop talking to that teacher outside of class.
What you're describing is similar to what I have to do for my master's degree. It's normal for master's classes. So I've got to do everything you're talking about. But by the end, for my dissertation to be done with everything in the whole like degree, that has to be a 50,000 page book that's edited, cleaned up. I have to have a complete marketing plan. I have to submit it to agents and actually find an agent. And I have to submit it to publishers and find a publisher for it.
50,000?
A minimum of 50,000.
You writing an encyclopedia?
No, a novel. To be considered novel length in the industry, it's got to be a minimum of 50,000 words.
You said 50,000 pages. I thought.
Oh, I'm sorry. I think I just said 50. Yeah, no, it's 50,000 words. I'm so tired. But mine's probably gonna be like 70 or 80 because the way it's set up. But like, I had to go through like multiple phases for approval, multiple stages of the write up for what it was, and then I have to create my own platform. Which thank God with the help of Jenny, I've already got an author platform because I've got the website and all the socials. So I'm actually like, yeah, I'm actually way far ahead of where I need to be. I've completed stuff for my whole degree already. That's just done and sitting there, thankfully, before I even started it. So that made things a lot easier. But
No,
a pain in the ass.
in
I'm
the
sorry,
process.
guys. Spider-Man wants to say goodnight.
Good night, Spider-Man.
Right.
They say goodnight.
I'm in the process of
Yes,
trying to
you're
come up with some
27.
ideas
Good night,
for a
baby.
novel that I can write now that I'm hooked in with Faycore. I want to actually start sitting down. It's like I've had all these ideas my entire life, and then I never do anything with them, and then they fall by the wayside. And I'm like, what was that idea again? I'm trying to dredge my memory to see if I can come up with the ideas.
Write
to-
down bits and pieces as you think of them. And as for the age thing, my husband has had gray hair since like 7th grade, so I did not judge your age by anything. So I know you're 37 like me.
Yes,
Okay.
that's absolutely
I'm
true.
12.
I am 37 like the rest of you. I don't know how old you are.
Oh, I'm the youngest person here, so
Yeah. Well, today, yeah. The youngest person on the network is Matt. He's, 19 now? Yeah, he's
but he
19.
didn't want to come on, and I find it saddening. Matt, I miss you.
They miss you, Matt.
Did Katie ever get replied to, by the way?
I replied
about
to her
to.
personally. I told her she would get the invite personally next time
Yeah.
in her chat.
To answer it for anyone that saw the question, I'll pull back up again. So we do a show every Sunday, every Monday, and pretty soon other nights again. Now that I'm not hunting, but Allied Society is usually once to twice a month, depending on how it falls in the cycle of things.
Yeah, we try to do the Clutch of Personalities at least once a month, which is where we bring on an author who, or somebody else we bring on a storyteller of some form.
Yeah.
Generally someone who is releasing a new project, and we talk with them all about their storytelling technique, all about what they're doing, and then we promote the shit out of their stuff and give away free copies. So, yeah.
And then
But-
on unprinted pages, whichever day the author decides lately, we bring on 2 or more authors and we just talk about writing and their works and publishing.
But yeah, guys, I will be doing a special extra show at some point in the near future about kind of wrapping up the haunt season. I'll grab Wolf again and a bunch of other haunters from different places and from my own haunt. And we'll just sort of have a roundtable night with anyone in Allied Society, Allied Network that wants to sit in, and just a bunch of rotating haunters. We'll kind of talk about how our seasons went at our haunts. We'll tell some funny stories and some weird shit together. But I'll make sure everybody knows about that in advance. I don't know how far in advance, but.
Raz, can I show you the best award that I've ever received for haunting?
Oh, yeah, man. Go ahead.
This is so cool.
Oh, that is cool. The brain mold.
That is awesomeness.
Nice.
So
Oh, yeah.
this was the Multiple Personality Award, because I worked practically every scene in the haunt doing different characters every night.
Wow.
That is epic, man. I love that. It's that versatility.
This was made by Keith Newsom.
Keith is awesome, man.
So this one is, I think, the most special to me out of awards I've received. I've received a couple, for like best entertainer, best male entertainer, etc. But this one, nobody's ever actually made something like this for me before.
That's really fucking neat, man. I love that.
I love it. My little brain.
Arts and crafts for ghouls.
Yes.
Yep, pretty much. But yeah, guys, this was it was a show.
It was a good show. You guys were
It was a
awesome.
good one.
Yeah, before we cross over towards the 2-hour mark, we should probably let everybody know what's going on. Tomorrow night, we are doing Tomb of the Terrible. Dun, dun, dun. Oh, wait, I can do it better than that. I keep forgetting.
Tomb of the Terrible.
Where did it go? Oh, I didn't add that music here yet. Damn it. Okay.
That's okay.
Oh, well.
And we'll be watching tomorrow for Tomb of the Terrible, by the way.
Gothic American Poltergeist.
Poltergeist, one of the worst movies ever made.
Oh, I
It
definitely
is
want to watch that now.
Yeah.
I already put the promos up for it for tomorrow.
So yeah, you'll see the usual Tomb crew pop on tomorrow night, same Al time, same Al channel, and discuss this terrible movie.
9 o'clock Eastern, 8 o'clock Central.
Yep. That's when we'll be doing it. Yep.
if you would like to watch it, it is on YouTube available, and then you can come and talk with us.
Yeah, I might do that. I've got an online karate class from 6:30 to 7:30, but after that, I'm free.
Okay.
Right on, man.
And while we're getting ready to wrap things up, Wolf, where would you like people to hunt you down at and contact you?
I do have a YouTube channel, which is primarily martial arts related. You can find it under my name at Wolf Sensei, I believe. It's mostly just a lot of my kata and other things martial arts related like that. I haven't done a lot with it, even though it's another project that I keep saying, yes, I'm going to work on. I also have TikTok, which is a lot of the same thing, martial arts related content. So you can find me there as well. I think that's also, it's either under Wolf Dojo or Wolf Sensei as well. As far as an author or a writer page, I have not created one yet. I want to see how far this goes with Fakor to determine whether or not it's going to be something I'll need, which I have a feeling it's probably going to be. So yay, another project I get to work on.
You already have
Yay.
3 fans.
Hell yeah.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
3. Raz.
As always, you can find me at your mother's house or at rustyslasher.com and all the lovely, lovely social media platforms that Jenny has set me up on. Sadly, you can no longer find me in Hell's Dungeon until December 15th and 16th when we're coming back with an all-new Krampus show weekend. And we'll be putting some stuff up on the network for that. And aren't you guys doing one as well, Wolf, for Christmas?
I don't think we're doing one for Christmas, but Alan has made the suggestion we might do one for St. Patrick's Day. But
Oh, you don't see that often.
That might have just been an inside joke because we have an actress who is barely 5 feet tall, so she was going to be our evil leprechaun.
Please, if you guys do that, tell us.
That he was making, but I would actually like to see it happen. Other than that, if anybody is in and around the Columbus, Ohio area, there's also the Buckeye Lake Pirates. You can find them on Facebook, Buckeye Lake Pirates Club. They will be doing a Pirates Fest in May of next year. I will be there for that.
Nice.
Dressed in full pirate garb.
I think it's Hell's Dungeon, Dent, and Carnage that are all doing the 15th and 16th. I think. I'll let you guys know. I'll put it up. I'll let y'all know.
I'm pretty sure Carnage is because they've already got like the little scene at the end of their
That's right. Yeah.
their haunt. So I'm pretty sure they're going to be doing the Christmas thing. Not that it matters. I won't be here. I'm actually flying down to Florida to visit.
Okay, gotcha.
As far as God, I can't talk tonight. Something in my throat or my mouth just keeps
It's a
messing
frog.
up.
I can't brain. I has the dumb.
Yeah, and the throat. So if you want to find me, the body that I'm inhabiting right now belongs to a writer named Carrie Lee Sanders. That's Carrie with a Kari, and you can find her on Facebook. And all of the links that go to everything involved with her and me are there as well. And the lovely Jenny takes care of all of those things for me, except for my main page. So let's go over to her because she has the most sites to maintain and the most stuff.
Okay. Hi. For me, I'm at Friday with the Library in the Blue Box. Is my page. My group is Friday Blues Disorganized Library for random booky things. And then, of course, there's the Slasher Sanatorium, which I don't tell people enough about, that I've been putting a whole lot of memes and random book things in. Please go check that out. And of course, all the Owlite things, all the Raz things, a lot of the Dell things, and of course, Fakor. Please go to Fakor and read our things. We would love for you to tell us what you think.
And give us all your monies.
Yes, please buy all the books on the Fakor.
Yes.
There are quite a few. I looked through the catalog. Wow.
Dude, just
getting
with Patty
expensive.
alone, there's more than 40.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Oh, that's a lot. Oh, I almost forgot. I'm also on the Dorkening.
I was going to remind you, don't worry.
I will be there on Splash Pages on Tuesday. We're going to be interviewing Franco. It's going to be
Yes.
awesome. Get
Go
some
find out
itty-bitty Hellboy going on. So read yourself some itty bitty Hellboy if you want to be caught up.
And I wouldn't publicly say this. Like, yeah, I've been watching The Dorkening like since you started with him, actually, like pretty much. And you guys have, man, the Splash Pages has become like, if I'm going to watch a show that doesn't involving horror, it's Splash Pages every time. Because I love comics. I don't always get to connect with them like I used to when I was younger. But like the stuff you guys do over there, and even more so lately, has just it's gotten me back into comics again. So like I'm actually like trying to pick them up and read, and I need to get the links from you so I can read the Immortal Hulk series in order because I'm officially starting that process this coming Monday. And also before we forget, there's something that Dell and I have been holding on to for quite some time. And I'm not sure if she remembers it, but I do. For like over a year, we talked and talked and talked about both getting a copy of House of Leaves and reading it together for the very first time together and like doing a little show about it, kind of like us talking about it and like about how we feel about it. And we'd saved reading this until obviously much long after it was actually very popular, just because we're us and we wait for things. So pretty soon we're going to start talking more about that and when you guys are going to be able to find that kind of stuff. So I just happened to pull it out of the box the other day, and I'm like, oh yeah, hunt season is over. We got to start that soon.
I need to find my copies. And
Yeah.
yes, I say copies because from what I have been told, to honestly be able to read the book and do what you're supposed to be able to with the book, A, you need a specific printing of the book. And B, you need to be able to destroy the book as you're going through it because sometimes things need ripped out, folded, different things need to be done with the pages and such.
Yeah.
So I'm going to have my 2 copies, and the book is huge. It's like fucking Les Mis or something.
Yeah.
Like,
It's a
did a
gorgeous
Russian
book,
author
though.
write this? Did Stephen King come in? I don't know. But so yeah, so we're gonna have we're gonna have some fun with that one.
I'm excited about it, man.
Yeah.
I haven't gotten to read like a physical book. Like it's been all ebooks since the tornadoes and everything. So like to actually get to read a physical one and do this whole thing, I can't imagine getting to read a physical book again and not having it being experienced. So this is super special, man.
Yeah. So yeah, this is what we have coming up for you guys. And yeah, splash pages. Yeah. So you'll see Jar Jar with us too over on Splash Pages. And,
Oh, yeah. And often here, like at different shows. Yeah.
Yeah. We kind of cross lines with the
Yeah.
Dorkening and the Owlite Network and
Yeah.
yeah. It's fun.
And Brill Pro.
And Brill Po. Yes. Oh
Yes,
yes.
we need
Yep,
Bro
yep.
Pro.
Go
Yep.
watch Tom Dog on Channel X on YouTube. Brill Pro, and he does a lot of different kinds of reviews. He does movies and he does food things and he does wrestling and he does all sorts of fun stuff.
Hmm.
And sometimes he shows up here too, and he does some great impressions. So
He really does.
yeah.
Really does.
Although there are some that I never need to hear again, and he knows about those. And he intentionally does them sometimes, just to fuck with me.
I
But-
may or may not pay him for that.
All right. But anyway, guys, thank you so much for coming and watching tonight, or coming and watching on YouTube if you're there. And everybody have a good night.
Spay and neuter your friends. I know I have.
Thank you for inviting me. This was very fun. I hope to do it again.
Oh yeah, can't wait to have you back.
Achievement